Hey guys, welcome back. It's your favorite Gimp with a Limp, and I am here today with something I am very excited to show you guys, something I was thrilled to get in the mail, and that is the, what is the best way to put this? Closest to production copy of World at War 85. This is still prototype copy, but it's all but finished. So some of this will be a touch different in the copies that you guys do get from the Kickstarter, but most of it is right there on par what you guys can expect to get. And I was trying to think of a video I wanted to do to kind of help show everybody, a little bit about this game, because I'm getting ready to start a boot camp series actually covering World at War 85, or actually continue, should I say, because I've already got a couple done for it, just getting it started up. But the World at War 85 series is getting ready to kick off in earnest now. And in my going through the box that I received of all this World at War 85 stuff, I was like, my God, the game just doesn't quit. It is a war game without end. So that's what I decided I was going to show you guys, the fact that it offers so much gameplay. If you are into this type of game, you really need to get this. God, I hope you guys back the Kickstarter, because the stretch goals alone are some of the best stretch goals I've seen from a Kickstarter, especially when it comes to wargaming. I mean, I'll admit, I love Kickstarters. I love the concept, and I'm a big flavor of the month, fear of missing out guy. I wholeheartedly admit that. That's why I end up backing Kickstarters, because they'll put the little minis on there and like, oh, look at this cool mini if you get this many backers, and oh, look at this really big mini, and I'm like, oh God, I love paid minis. So for me, that's a big thing to be excited about. I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about a little bit of the game, show you guys some of the stuff that I've got set up, and how big and how much variety you can actually have with this. Now, what I've done is just taken a single scenario from the base game and set it up. And I wanted to take a scenario from one of the expansions and show you guys, but I couldn't, and I'll show you why here in just a second. But I'll show you here in the scenario booklet. I've got it set out, and you can see your Soviet forces and your West German forces here are laid out nice and neat in your order of battle, telling you how many of each of the counters. These represent the cards, which I actually already have stacked right here, ready to go. And depending on which side it is, obviously they'll have more cards. So this unit has 2 cards to draw from, but this one only has 1. And the West German forces actually have 6 cards that they can use. This isn't a counter-heavy map. This is just, or scenario, it's just one map. You take and flip over, and it gives you all your special rules right over here. And then this shows you, this is just a single map that you're going to be playing on, and where all your different objectives are located. Now keep this in mind, okay? Keep this in mind right here for what I'm getting ready to show you guys. So you see here, this is where I've got it set out, and the forces are set out at the different objectives. And in this one, the Soviets are already here at objective A, and there's B and C located up there. And these guys actually don't start on the map. They come in as reinforcements on turn 3, and they'll push in along this road here. And the goal is for the Soviet forces to take and maintain control of a town that's underneath all these counters here for the duration of the scenario. If they don't hold both hexes by the end of the scenario, the West Germans that are located up here are going to win. And one of the other cool things about this is what I've got stacked here is the fact that I can play this scenario solitaire with a solitaire deck designed specifically for World at War 85. You guys saw me do this previously when I used the Lock and Load Tactical solitaire deck, very similar to this, and use that to take and play World at War 85. And I was actually in talks with Lock and Load Publishing about some of the stuff that I was doing and some of the changes I thought they could make to the solitaire deck to revamp it to where it could work with World at War 85. And they took those suggestions, and some other people who play tested it, and they went ahead and got a deck made. That was one of the stretch goals for the campaign. So that is awesome to have. And just like, let's see if I can find one. Yeah. Just like in the Lock and Load Tactical series, you see that little shield there at the bottom. That represents the fact that these are defensive cards. And then there are cards that have a little explosion at the bottom right, and those are offensive cards. So depending on which goal the AI has, you'll either have the defensive cards or the offensive cards mixed in. And then there's generic cards like this one that do not have a symbol there at the bottom at all. Now, there is a little player aid instruction manual comes with it, and another player aid for the solitaire components as well. They kind of help flow you through how to use these cards, but it's right on par with Lock and Load Tactical. So if you've used Lock and Load Tactical solo cards before, you'll fall right into these. They've even got 2 dice there at the top, just in case you need them for extra randomization if you don't want to roll dice, which I think is so neat that they include that on there. So solitaire play right out of the gate, which I think honestly works better for this system, just because to me it feels so much like a miniatures based game. And the way, hey, you know, I'm rolling this many dice, my firepower's 3, I'm going to roll 3 dice, I'm looking for 4s to hit. Your defense is, you know, 4, and you're looking for 5s for your defense. That's a system that I think works very well for solitaire play. So the cards mix into that, but it also works very well for a miniatures type game, which they included data cards for. I didn't even pay attention to this part of it. I grabbed out some of the examples, like, okay, you got T80s here, right? So here are your little T80 counters, all right? They give all your stats for them. But if you want to, you could take and use these data cards to take and sub in miniatures and have a miniatures-based game using, you know, the World at War 85 rule set. And you see there the hexes are listed down for the ranges that they have for, or down over here is for hexes. But then if you use a 6mm, what's the word I'm looking for? Scale, 6mm scale, then that's going to be the distance in inches that they can shoot. Or if you have 15mm, or if you have 28mm. And I know there's a buddy of mine named Johnny who's been working on getting some miniature set up for this. He's really wanting to use this system with miniatures. So this is going to fall right up his alley. And you see it has a cost listed at the side. So you can take and play it literally just like a miniatures game, just like a X-Wing, for example, which your ships have a certain point cost, and you'll take and tally those up to whatever point cost game that you're playing. You know, for X-Wing it's 200. For this, it would obviously be probably more than 200, especially if you play a monster game, which we're going to touch on that here in just a sec. Like I said, keep that map in mind over there. Like I said, the real neat idea, and you wouldn't even have to use like the maps. I mean, you could if you wanted to just play on them, but you could take and use generic, like those nylon mats that you can get to play stuff like Gaslands or Warhammer on. If you have terrain like that, you could take and use, well, probably not with 6mm scale, but you know what I mean. You could use terrain like that to take and play the World at War 85 game. I just think that's so neat. There's a card for each one of the units, a huge stack of cards. I wish I had the time to invest in creating a whole bunch of miniatures to, you know, field all the different units. But I know some of you guys probably actually already have some from different war games that you've played. I know I've seen plenty of those little minis. God, I can't remember what the company's called, Fire something, or someone put it down in the comments. Let me know what I'm thinking of. It's a 6mm game set. I want to say like Fields of Fire keeps popping in my head, and I know that's not it. The Fire something. You guys put it down in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. But just to show you something else, 82mm mortar. You can see here also shows the ranges for the unit, and then we've got one for infantry, the air assault, and you can see obviously their ranges are much less than tanks, because you know tanks can shoot a lot farther than you guys, than these guys. So real cool addition. Also, the rule book, you're not going to need to pull it out too much once you've taken and learned the game. because they have a nice big selection of player aids that come with the game that I don't even need to show you guys all that. It's going to cover pretty much any question you're going to have is going to be there with pictures, with little examples to help walk you through your terrain effects chart, all that other good stuff. You're not going to have to do a whole lot of digging once you dig into the rule book, or once you've got a good grasp of the rules. And like I said, I am doing my video bootcamp series on this game, so you'll have that to use as well. Now, the point I've been making, or been alluding to this whole time, remember I said I wanted to set out the expansion, all right, what's it called? Let me look it up real quick. The Defense of Frankfurt is one of the stretch goals. I wanted to take and set that up as just the display for doing this video because it was so big, so massive, looked so cool. All right, this is map number 3. This is what I have set up here. This is map number 3, okay? This is the first scenario for the Battle of Frankfurt. Map number 3 is the same size as like 37, 38, 30. Look at this. This is a monster game as well. That just tickled the hell out of me when I saw how big this actually goes. Look at the size of all of this. I couldn't fit it. Let me back up a little bit so you guys can see. This is the size table that I'm working with right now. I actually could not fit this on the table to show you guys. I would have to set it back up like I did for Thunder in the East to give myself room to do that. So if you're into big monster games, you can do that with World at War 85, and you can even do it with miniatures if you want to go that route. That is just so neat with all the different options that you have available to you. Let me show you how many units are actually involved in this. And there's actually in this a different rule set as well for the activation cards when it comes to battalion cards. So you could draw, I'm not going to get into all of it, but basically you'll draw a battalion card and then you'll activate the different companies. So you'll be activating a lot of units at once. You don't have to, it's an optional thing, but it is included in these rules if you want it. So just for the Allied side on that big map that I was just showing you guys for scenario 1, there are 25 activation cards for drawing for the different units. That's more than this scenario with both sides and the intern and the electronic warfare and the events and everything put together. So just one side's activation units or activation cards for their units in this scenario is more than all of that scenario put together. That shows you how big this is going to be. Let me show you some of the units that are involved. See, West and, is it just West and East? See, this is West, more West Germans, and then we have U.S. forces, all the difference, and you can see 2 cards, 1 card, 2 cards, 2 cards, 2 cards, 2 cards. And if you guys don't understand what I'm talking about with the cards, real short explanation, it just has to do with the different command structures for the different nations that are fighting. That, you know, the U.S. forces will have focus on small unit leadership and small unit focus, so they can take and activate their units more often because they have a different command structure. Whereas the Soviets are more about massing their forces and mass tank assaults, so they'll only have 1 card maybe controlling a set of units, but it'll be a large swath of units. So they won't activate as often, but they'll activate more less often. You kind of get what I'm saying. Neat system that I definitely like. This here touches on some of that battalion card stuff that I was talking. Oh wait, no, that's close air support. Battalions at the back of it. Oops, listen to me saying dumb stuff. But yes, they do have close air support in this as well. Artillery, and here we get into the Soviets and all the different units that they're bringing for this scenario. And you can see this isn't just one. Look at this. What are these T-80s? Yeah, T-80s. My eyesight's getting bad in my older age. 10 T-80s, 10 BMPs, 10 infantry. Think about that spread all across the map. Another 3, another 10. Are those T-55s? No, T-64s. And then 10 more infantry, 10 more T-62s, 10 more, what are those? Z53 or something along those lines, but more tanks. And then over here, you guys can see, this is what I was talking about when it comes to the battalion cards. So you would draw this card and activate those companies. And I haven't played it that way, so I'm not sure on how it exactly is done, but it shows you what cards are associated with what battalion, overall battalion card. But from going through all that, you can just see how big of a game that would be. Multiply what I've got shown here on the table by like 8, spread all across the map. And I remember at the WBC last year that I saw some guys playing a prototype copy of this, and they had nowhere near that size, maybe 2 or 3 maps put together and a large amount of forces, and they played that over the course of like 2 or 3 days, 4 days, something like that. And I kept coming back to it. It was the one that I kept coming back to, and I would sit there and I would watch them, and I was literally just enthralled. I don't know, maybe it was Keith just keeping my attention. Hey, Keith, awesome job, by the way, buddy. But I loved it. That's really what got me into this game, is seeing it there at WBC and just watching that massive battle play out where a wall of tanks and BMPs were pushing across the map, and then he pulled in with his tanks and some anti-tank guided missiles around trying to flank him, and then they were doing assaults. And then I remember over here he had helicopters popping up and down over the trees to fire their missiles in, and then towards the end of it there was nothing but just a strew of wrecks all across, or wreck markers rather, all across the map, designating where all these tanks had been destroyed, and it was just a few remaining forces trying to hold him back from the objective before he was able to make it. Just loved it. Really, 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 really cool to watch that play out, and that's nowhere near the size of this. So my whole point is the fact that if you like monster games, if you think things like Thunder in the East and damn it, I'm brain farting off the one from the GMT one, the classic, A World at War, Absolute Victory, those big games, but you want a different system. You like the more tactical feel or strategic feel of games like this, but you want to have that huge scale. Well, you've definitely got it when it comes to this. This is one of the parts that I was most excited for. I am going to have to get some space set aside soon to try to set this up and just see all the counters spread across. Unfortunately, with the baby coming, though, I am a little strapped for time and will not be able to do that until after we get the baby out. But anyway, that's it for me. I just wanted to show you guys all this cool stuff, and I haven't even showed you anywhere near all of it. I mean, I've pointed out a little bit of the solitaire, showed you some of the components, and again, prototype stuff, not final. It's very close. It's right there on the cusp, but it's not the absolute final. The rule books and stuff, I'm pretty sure that's final components. I mean, short of unless they found a little errata or typo somewhere, they would fix that. But this stuff is pretty well where it's going to be. The counters are going to actually be turned into counters rather than the burnt laser cut ones that they are now. But I've really gotten to love those things. That burnt wood smell makes me think prototyping cool, and preview copying, I really have grown to like it now. But anyway, if you have kickstarted World at War 85, you do have a box full of awesome headed your way, which we'll get to you soon. And if you haven't backed Kickstarter, I would definitely didn't back the Kickstarter, I would definitely pay attention to the Lock and Load website and check it out. If you are into strategic games and you like that that feel of a war game that kind of has that miniatures game feel of, you're rolling so many dice looking for your hits, rolling so many defense dice looking for your saves, that type feel. Like if you enjoy playing Warhammer, for example, this would be a war game that would be up your alley, and it's not too difficult. It's not so chromy that you can't get your head wrapped around it. The basic rules themselves are simplistic or simple in nature, and they're relatively streamlined, but there's enough there definitely to sink your teeth into, especially when you start accounting for things like the reactive armor some of the tanks have. So when missiles fire at them, that's going to be a modifier for the different dice rolls. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all of it, but stay tuned. I will have more of World at War 85 up for you guys soon. Like I said, the boot camp series will be starting, and I'm going to try to do a couple little playthroughs when I get a little bit of extra space set aside for them. All right, that's going to be it for me. You guys take care. I'll catch you in the next one.